Alright, this is my first attempt at creating a tutorial here, but I was one of the lucky few to receive one of these non-touchscreen screens in a 2022 BMW X5, and it really put me back quite a bit and understood that one other person was able to make it work, and I just wanted to see if I couldn't get it done myself. So in any event, this is a two-part process. What I'm doing a video on today is the screen replacement. This is not the entire procedure, but this is just to replace the screen so that you have a touch-enabled screen. First things first, I am not the professional. I am just putting this video together to help y'all out in the event that you all decide to replace your screen. I was also making this video solo, so I did not have a tripod or an assistant helping or holding the camera at all. At times things will be in focus and out of focus. Please bear with me as we get through the procedure here. It's honestly not too difficult. It took me about an hour from start to finish. As long as you have the right tools in place and ready to go, it won't take you too long. The second part of this procedure, in order to get this touchscreen to be working again, is to actually code the vehicle. These vehicles were delivered with two codes. One was a 6UY, which was the deletion of the touchscreen, and the other one was the ZUY, backup assist delete. I will try to create another video for the programming or the coding portion of this procedure, but I'm not an expert at it. I don't know exactly how it works, and I'm also a Mac user, and Parallels would not install ESYS for me, so I'm going to have to hire an expert to come in and code the car remotely in order to make sure that this all works. But in any event, I wanted to get us started and get you pointed in the right direction. The touchscreen itself came from OPURADIO, that's OPURADIO, with part number 65508798732. If I can figure out how to include a link down below, I'll put a link in there. It was $398 for the screen itself, and shipping was $154.37. Total $552. So the $500 credit that BMW gave us to have this touchscreen deleted doesn't even cover the cost of the screen, but that's another story from another day. Once you find the screen, checking out was a two-step process. I'm not exactly sure how they do it, but you have to order it online and then go back into your PayPal account and to actually ship them the money or process the transaction. It's a little goofy, but it did work, and in about a week after I ordered the screen, it arrived in pretty good shape. It was a new screen. I know there are some other options from overseas, Ukraine, eBay, whatever, but this was a new screen. It was well boxed, and it actually had one of those protective screen covers on it to prevent scratches in transit. It's a pretty nice piece. Tools required. Honestly, not a whole lot here. All you needed was a 20 Torx, 27 Torx, and then some trim tools in order for you to pry off some of the trim that's in there. Otherwise, you don't even need a screwdriver to get this thing done. Pretty simple setup. Alright, during this procedure I elected to leave the power on. I asked around and talked to a couple folks and understood that it shouldn't have been a problem. I left it on, but again, I'm not the professional, and hindsight being 2020, I probably should have had it off during this procedure and disconnected the battery. Alright, first thing you need to do is start on the passenger side and remove the little side cover that's behind the door. There's a couple simple snaps that are in there, and all you have to do is just kind of pop those out. You can do it by hand. You don't necessarily need a trim tool. With that trim piece now removed, you're going to have to remove two screws. There's actually a third screw for the trim, but it's hidden, and we'll get to that later. So just remove those screws gently. We're going to do the same procedure, but now on the driver's side. Because there is a third screw that we need access to in order to fully remove the dash trim, the only way to really get to it is to start on the driver's side and start working your way to the right now. That the two screws are removed from the driver's side panel, you should be able to remove the driver's side vent. You might need a trim tool in order to break it free from the little clasps that are in there. So this was probably the toughest part of the entire procedure here. Popping this cluster trim out there, it is very delicate, so make sure you grab onto it tightly but softly and gently pull that thing back. Once you get it popped out of there, you'll see you have access to a couple screws, and here's a shot of what it looks like when it finally comes out, so you can see where the connections are. But do be careful pulling this part out. With the cluster trim removed, you now have access to two different screws. The number 1 screw is attached to the screen and takes a 27 Torx. The number 2 screw takes a 20 Torx and is attached to the dash. Remove both of those screws. Now that that hidden third trim screw has been removed, you're going to be able to remove the dash, or the trim on the dash, out from view. This will give you access to the 2 bottom screws of the screen. You can use a trim tool to help push that trim off of the dash, but it shouldn't be too hard to slide out. Now that you have access to the 3 screen screws, all you have to do is remove those with the 27 Torx. The one that's deep behind the instrument cluster is a little tough, but it will come out. With the 3 screws removed, you'll see the back of the screen with the pink connector that's back in there, as well as some of the other cabling. In my particular car, the screws were torqued pretty well. Now getting to the fun part. With access to that pink connector, all you have to do is disconnect it. There is a little pull tab on the side of it, and you do have to pull pretty firmly in order to get it to come out. This part's probably self-explanatory, but all you have to do is connect the pink connector to the back of the new screen, or the replacement screen, and then start the reinstall process. Here you see me lining everything up. I got that deep screw in first. What I did was I put the screw through the hole and then lined it up, which made it for a little bit of an easier time putting everything back together. Probably 5 seconds after I had plugged the screen back into that connector, it did come back on without a problem. No data was lost, everything appeared normal. From here on out, all you're doing is putting the car back together again, putting the trim back to where it needs to be. In this particular shot, showing that it needs to be underneath the weather trim, and it's a little bit easier to start low and then push it back up. But everything else should clip into place. Make sure you do a good tool check, screw check, make sure everything's back to its normal place. And after all that work, the bad news is nothing has changed. The touch screen still does not work. This is where the coding comes in. So at least the screen is now ready to go for whenever I get this online repair to come out and help me out. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment or ask in the chat down there. I'll respond to them as best I can. Thanks for watching.